Hello everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood Leo Chase from Mythmaster, here with my review of the new movie Death of a Unicorn. If you are unaware, it's an R-rated horror movie starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, and there will be spoilers, so beware, but first, a non-spoiler section. Overall, it was a good movie and I'd give it 7 out of 10. There were some genuine funny moments and the horror was great, but some plot points felt unresolved and it was a bit messy at times. Before getting on to spoilers, I just want to say I'm hoping to get to 500 subscribers before I turn 18 in May, so it'd be great if you could subscribe. Now, on to the spoilers. These are generally quite minor nitpicks, but there were a few plot points that I felt went nowhere, such as when Elliot, the dad, didn't remember or saying he didn't remember anything about the tapestry and the mum, just happening to be connected to the unicorns in some way. And I feel like we didn't get enough time or information about the female doctor other than her being messed with by Shep, mentioning something about family to Elliot, and then voting Griff out. I'm only mentioning this as I think all of the other characters were done very well. Plus, and this is probably my biggest gripe, and isn't just a nitpick, I feel like the unicorns weren't explained enough. I don't think you need to explain everything, but the whole sky thing was not explained at all, and didn't resolve into a shape. It just grew, and then the whole purity scene, which I'll just talk about it now, was my least favourite scene. It's when the two adult unicorns touch horns and all the darkness comes off them to collect into a magic ball to heal Elliot and the foal, and also turn the unicorns white. I don't mind that it healed Elliot and the foal, but I feel like the floating ball and purifying thing had no precedent and was completely unnecessary. The adults just could have touched horns and sparks fly or something, and then Elliot's hand could shoot up and grab them. I like the idea of the fur getting darker as they aged, as I thought that's what was suggested. But it feels like the people who made the movie just wanted to have the unicorns scary for most of it, but then also wanted to have the grown-up unicorns being white, so they could gallop alongside the car. This brings me on to one of my favourite things about the movie. No, not the end. I mean the unicorn design. With the exception of when all the unicorns go white at the end, I think the CGI was great, and I love the designs of the parents and the child. They managed to make the mum and dad unique, but with the mum looking more traditional like a unicorn, but still being scary, and the father being quite monstrous, but also noble. They were great villains and reminded me a bit of the raptors in Jurassic Park, in terms of how intelligent they were, and how they stalked the protagonists, which is to say, they're great because the raptors in Jurassic Park are some of the greatest movie villains of all time. I also loved how the kind of unicorn's sphere of control tightened from the woods to the ground to just outside the house until eventually they broke in. Plus, each of the deaths managed to be pretty unique, which I think is quite impressive. As I said, I liked all of the characters. The only really good ones, in terms of morality, were Ridley, who was a solid protagonist and just wanted to be listened to in a good way, and Griff, who was fantastic as an almost reluctant servant who spent years serving people he knows are horrible in order to help his family. I'm glad he survives. There's also Dr. Song, who died pretty early on, but I get the sense that he wanted to do things properly and non-illegally. Then there is the Leopolds. Odell Leopold was the most arrogant, greedy, and controlling, just wanting to have all the unicorn stuff for himself, and being very rude to Elliot and Ridley. Shep at first seems just to be spoiled, but doesn't seem to be bad, such as when he lets Ridley use his printer, and in one of the funniest scenes in the movie is, when he calls across the compound Griff, yells, and then just yells again a few seconds later, which just shows his arrogance and entitlement. But he gets progressively worse as the movie goes on, treating others like dirt and becoming increasingly more selfish and uncaring, eventually leading to him refusing to honour his mother's dying wish and relieve her of her suffering, because he wants to use the unicorns for his own gain. Belinda is very manipulative and selfish, but not as much as the others. She seems to generally care for her son, and seemed to want to protect her family, and cared a lot about status, with her saying how they'll sell it to their friends and their people. She tries to handle Ridley in a different way from her family, which ends up completely backfiring, and is another quite funny moment. But her death is very good and probably one of the most gory. Moving away from the Leopolds, we come onto Elliot. Overall, he wasn't the nicest guy. While he may have been doing it all for Ridley and their future, he didn't seem to care much about his daughter's opinions and thoughts, and allowed himself to get bossed around. His final self-sacrifice speech was very good, and then was kind of undone, with him maybe having a pre-planned deal with Shep. I didn't fully get it if they were in cahoots or not, but at least Elliot did try to stop Shep by stabbing him, which did then cost him his own life, and he gave another good final speech before being resurrected again. Well, not again, but being resurrected. Ridley was a good protagonist, as I said before, and I liked the investigating she did, and her dynamic with Griff, but I feel like she could have done more in figuring out how to calm, or like, she knew that the unicorns wouldn't attack her, so I feel like she should have used that more, or figured out that the child needed the horn to be able to regenerate. I've already told you how I'm not a fan of the purity scene, and from there, the movie goes onto the ending, which is supposed to be ambiguous, and I'll present you my opinion of it. Throughout the movie, I think what people saw when they touched, or in Shep's case, took in Unicorn Horn, was very visually impressive, but I didn't get the message the movie was trying to convey about death and life in a way which ties into how, basically it's like why. Because I didn't understand what they're saying, it ties into how I interpreted the ending, so I could be completely wrong. When I saw the unicorns galloping very closely to the cars, side note, seeing Griff roll up the window was very good, and it may seem sarcastic, the praise I'm giving him, but he managed to be the funniest character in the movie. And when I saw Elliot doing the seat belt, I thought they were going to get rammed off the road, and I interpreted it as the unicorns thanking Elliot and Ridley by killing them so they could be with the mum and experience what they did when they touched the horn, as they're so entranced by it, but also kind of as a punishment, as they were the ones who originally hit their baby. But the person I saw the movie with saw it as the unicorns trying to save them from custody, and the seatbelting as a way to stop any trauma so they could safely get out of the car. If you've seen the movie, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. While it may seem like I've criticised the movie a lot, I did really enjoy it, and I would recommend it. The acting is incredible, and the majority of the story is as well. Most of the problems for me just come down to at the end, and that's mostly due to how I interpreted it. And I feel like, yeah, as I said, some plot points weren't resolved or explained and stuff. If you've made it this far, once again, I'd like to ask you to subscribe, as I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers before May. Have a good day, and ta-ta.